Oh my god, Kenji, like, jeez. And honestly, looking at these references, I do definitely want to like get into my bed and crawl into like a small ball and cry. What is going on, guys? My name is Kenji, welcome back to the channel. Hope it's not the first time you're watching one of my videos, but just in case it is, I'm a fourth year medical student and biomedical science graduate studying King's College London. And today I have a really cool video for you guys. What we're actually going to be doing is reviewing and critiquing my first ever essay I wrote at university, and it was so bad. I remember actually getting 40% on this essay, so I just about scraped through and passed that essay. So it'll be really cool just to look back and go through it. The reason why I want to do this video is kind of two things. The first is, as I mentioned, it'll be really good just to kind of reflect and see where I once was at when I was an 18-year-old, just starting university. And secondly, I think it'll be really good for you guys educationally. If you actually want to improve your essay writing skills, hopefully I'll be picking out some things that you definitely should not do or try not to do when you're writing your own essays. And we'll talk about how you can actually improve and get better at writing essays. But also more importantly, I want to show you guys that although you guys may have seen that I'm really big on research, I have, written and published articles in peer-reviewed journals, a little bit of a flex, but as I can show you guys here, this is my first ever research paper that I ever published myself. And also, you guys know that I am a biomedical science graduate, so a little bit of a flex, but I promise you it's for a good cause. What I'm essentially trying to say is that this wasn't overnight. As you guys will see, my first ever essay that I wrote at university was absolutely terrible. I just about passed. And if you guys are at the stage where you may not necessarily be getting first classes in every single essay, maybe you're struggling with your essay writing skills, I want you guys to know that I used to struggle so much as well. Writing essays for me was one thing that I was horrible at, which I absolutely hated, and I was able to go from just about passing, getting 40% to getting a first class degree, and also getting my first ever publication in a research journal. So if you're at that stage in university, don't worry, you definitely will be able to overcome this and hopefully get to a stage where you are publishing articles, where you are getting a first class in your essays, and hopefully this video will help you out with this. But before we start, I'm gonna give you guys 5 seconds to drop the video a like, make sure you're subscribed as well, and turn your notification bells on. That really helps me out. But before we actually go ahead and jump into my essay, I want to let you guys know that I have 2 really good videos so far on how to write an essay in university, and I also have an entire Skillshare course I recorded, which you can access for free down below. And it essentially was a course that I would have wanted myself to have watched when I was 18 years old in university, just starting off, or also even in my first or second year of biomedical science. And hopefully that'll really help you guys out with writing your own essays and getting a first class. But moving on to the video. All right, so let's go ahead and actually open up the document. And just looking at it straight away, I do immediately feel like a bit cringy, kind of like watching my YouTube videos back, but probably a bit worse. All right, so starting off the title is the biology of retinoblastoma, and straight away, what I recommend you guys do is try and have a title that is very specific. This is quite a non-specific title. Biology is a very huge, broad, and general term. If you want to write an essay, make sure your title is very specific and talks about exactly what type of biology you're talking about. So this is quite a non-specific title straight away, but let's just carry on. Alright, so reading the abstract. A cancer of early childhood and causing blindness in thousands of children worldwide. Retinoblastoma is one of the most rare yet abominable types of cancer. Blah, 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 blah. What I can see here is not only are current treatments looked at, but also promising and futuristic methods of retinoblastoma are discussed. So this sentence kind of sounds like a brochure to me. Essentially what an abstract should be, it should be a mini essay in itself. So it shouldn't be, in first person. This sentence right here straight away is me talking in first person, but you don't want to have that. You don't want to be talking like a reader to tell the people what you're going to talk about in your actual essay. You want to have like literally a mini essay in your abstract. So yeah, straight away, not very well written abstract, but it's okay. I'm going to forgive myself for that. Okay, but this I'm not going to forgive myself for. So this next paragraph or the next section of the actual body is causes. Right, so Kenji just decided that we're not going to do introduction. There is no introduction basically. We're going to jump straight into the causes, which is crazy. Like, I actually can't believe that I didn't have an introduction. Like, I thought straight away, why not? Let's just jump into the causes of the actual disease. But definitely don't do that. If you're writing an essay, make sure that you do have an actual dedicated introduction before you go ahead and talk about the causes. So straight away, yeah, that was a bit mad. All right, so moving on. So 2 forms of retinoblastoma exist. I wrote number 2. If you're writing an essay, don't use numbers. Write it out like TWO. So 2 forms of retinoblastoma exist: the hereditary and non-hereditary form. All right, so just jumping straight in, no context whatsoever, not describing what even retinoblastoma is. I don't even know if it's cancer or not. I'm just straight away telling you that there's 2 forms, not even telling you about what retinoblastoma is. 40% of all cases comprise of the hereditary form, and the remaining 6% are due to the non-hereditary form. All right, so 18-year-old Kenji thought, writing 2-sentence paragraphs is a thing. As you guys can see over here, this is literally 2 sentences, and then I move on straight away to the next paragraph, and I take like a whole entire section dedicated to these 2 sentences. So clearly, this first 2 sentences are like the most important part of this essay. But yeah, make sure you don't do that. If you're writing a paragraph, make sure a paragraph is actually structured better. You want to have, at least a couple of sentences here straight away, not 2 sentences followed by a space in the next paragraph. Like, that's not very good practice. Another thing that I want to say is that I honestly should have probably gone with this kind of setting here, which is like centering the text like this. I don't really like how there's like gaps at the end. I think it kind of makes your essay look a bit messy. So I would have liked to actually justify or centralize the text. But moving on. Okay, so the hereditary form of retinoblastoma produces multiple tumors in both eyes and is due to one germline mutation in the RB gene being passed on to the child. Okay, so what is RB? I should have actually wrote retinoblastoma, then in brackets wrote RB. You can't just straight away jump into like the abbreviation and use a random abbreviation that like no one knows what is. Moving on, 9 out of 10 children that inherit this mutation will suffer from retinoblastoma. The RB gene is a tumor-suppressor gene and codes for the RB protein, which regulates the cell cycle. All the cells within the body will contain this mutation. In order for a tumor to arise, a second mutation in a particular retinoblast is needed. See figure 1. Okay, so what is figure 1 out of curiosity? Okay, so figure 1 actually isn't a bad figure. It's actually just talking about like I think it's a 2-hit hypothesis of cancer. So not actually a bad figure to include, fair enough. The inheritance of one mutated gene greatly increases the probability of a second mutation to occur. This second mutation is normally a product of somatic mitotic recombination, in which the normal gene copy is replaced by a mutated copy of the gene. I actually don't really mind this sentence, like that's scientifically like not too bad. The result of this is retinal cells that contain 2 defective copies of the RB gene, which is the basis of the cause of the hereditary form of retinoblastoma. Okay, so this actually wasn't a bad few sentences. I am actually talking about the biology of retinoblastoma, so that actually isn't too bad. Okay, moving on to the next paragraph. In the non-hereditary form of retinoblastoma, only one eye is affected, and it's only done so by a single tumor. Non-cancerous cells show no genetic problem in either copy of the RB gene, while the cancerous cells are defective in both copies due to the unlikely event of a somatic mutation in a single retinal cell. And if for some reason I go ahead and clicked enter on my keyboard, I don't know if I actually purposely did this or if I just like slipped and clicked enter, but for some reason I clicked enter and moved to the next section, which makes no sense at all. That's not really like good practice. If you want to carry on a sentence, carry on straight away after like this, like just literally carry on typing after. Or, click enter and make it a whole entirely like separate paragraph, which I didn't do. Okay, so I clearly go on here to talk more about the biology of retinoblastoma, which is actually good. Like, that is the title of the essay, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip that as well. Although I did like this figure over here, I think what would have been good is to actually have it in the middle of the essay. So go ahead and click that. That. I think it looks much better if you actually have it right in the middle and not on the left or on the right. That doesn't really make any sense. But also, looking at the figure legend, so I'm going to assume that my previous self had this right here as a figure legend. But yeah, it's just not really a good figure legend to do. What I should have done is actually have the text a lot smaller. So if you guys want to find out more about how I make my figures, go check out my Skillshare course on that, which is completely free. Link down below to check it out. But essentially, I didn't actually include a figure title here. I should say figure 1, full stop, and then maybe a title like, I don't know, like Knudson's 2-hit hypothesis. And then I should go on to explain exactly what this figure is about. But also the text should be a lot smaller. So it shouldn't be, a number 12. It should actually be like maybe like a 9 or an 8, a lot smaller. The title should be in bold and capitalized. And this also should be in bold. And that's more of what a figure legend should look like. So I kind of messed up on that one. But moving on anyways. Okay, so for the next section of my essay, again, I move on to a 1-word title, just symptoms. I honestly don't know what I was thinking about. Like, looking at this now is kind of painful, not gonna lie. But I obviously should have, included a bit more information about what the next section is. A single word in your title is not a title. So I'm not entirely sure I did that, but that's what I did. But also, I'm not entirely sure if this section is relevant. You know, the title that we were given was the biology of retinoblastoma. So I should really be talking about the biology, maybe having, you know, 1 or 2 sentences on, you know, what the symptoms might be, but certainly not having an entire section dedicated to just talking about symptoms. That makes no sense at all. And yeah, it just shouldn't have been that way. Okay, but quickly skimming over what I wrote. Yeah, so straight away, I don't like how I used a colon here and kind of started listing off all the symptoms. That certainly feels like more of like a list and not an essay. So I don't like the use of a colon there. And again, I decided to click enter on the keyboard for some reason and completely skip, you know, writing over here and skip to the next line. Don't do that. I'm not entirely sure like what my English teacher would have thought about this, Kenji. Having a new line for a new section is not good practice, and I honestly don't know what I was thinking. But carrying on, and just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, as you guys can see over here, I have a 1-sentence paragraph. So before we had a 2-sentence paragraph up here, but no, Kenji went on to put a 1-sentence paragraph. Like, I'm not entirely sure if I knew what the definition of a paragraph was, because clearly I thought it, you know, 1 sentence is good enough. But let's just move on to the next section, which straight away is a beautiful title. So types of treatment, again, absolutely beautiful title, not really giving any information about what is to come. And also, again, not really being relevant to the topic title. You know, so whenever you guys are writing your essays, make sure you are answering the title you were given. You know, clearly I went off in a tangent talking about the symptoms, talking about the types of treatments, but no, like make sure you focus on exactly what the title is that you're given. But let's go ahead and carry on reading. Okay, so numerous forms of treatment of retinoblastoma exist, ranging from more simple techniques such as surgery to the use of state-of-the-art equipment, including lasers. Most forms of treatment preserve eyesight. However, in cases where the tumor gets too large before diagnosis, more drastic measures are needed. Okay, so yeah, like I said, it seems like I'm going off on a tangent to do with the types of treatment. Again, this is about the biology of retinoblastoma, so I'm not really answering the question. And right below figure 2, as you can see, is a beautiful, highly specific figure to this topic. Yeah, looking back at this figure is just so funny, because I do remember actually including this figure over here and thinking like, wow, this is an amazing photo. But I definitely remember also taking this figure off Google Images from a website. And this is not really a useful picture. Like we all know, you know, we can all imagine where an artificial eye might go. So if you're writing your own essays, make sure that every single figure you include is very specific to your title, and most importantly, adds value to your actual essay. So clearly over here, you know, having a picture of a fake eye attaching to an eyeball is not really going to add any sort of value to my essay. It's not really answering the question, which is the biology of retinoblastoma. It's not really adding any intrinsic value to my essay. So this is definitely a rubbish figure. I definitely should have got a very unique and specific figure. For example, maybe talking about, you know, a pathway or like a scientific cellular pathway in retinoblastoma, kind of like how I did up here. I think that was a very useful figure that demonstrates the nonsense to hit hypothesis. So having a figure like this, which is very specific to the science and the biology of retinoblastoma, that definitely adds, you know, use to my essay. But having a random photo like here really does not you know, help anyone. And I'm sure I included another one actually. Yeah, so as you can see over here, I for some reason included a figure on the different parts of the eye. Again, this is not an essay on anatomy. It's not a medical essay. It's an essay, you know, that is looking at the biology of retinoblastoma. So I shouldn't really be including any sort of figures that is not to do with biology. Again, the figure legend also is horrible. The same for that figure as well. But yeah, both these figures were really bad. And I remember my tutor actually telling me that, like literally laughing at me for including these figures. But yeah, let's carry on reading. Okay, so the next sentence says, one of the most effective treatments for retinoblastoma is the exploitation of high energy X-rays. Okay, I really don't like the use of exploitation. Like, am I referring to human trafficking or like something like that? Because exploitation definitely is not really a word you should use in a scientific essay. Does that make sense? All of your words that you use should really be, you know, scientific, very straight to the point, and not kind of, you know, kind of like something you'd write in an English GCSE essay like exploitation. So yeah, definitely don't do that. This is known as radiation therapy and occurs in 2 types: external beam radiation therapy and brachytherapy. The safest of the 2, brachytherapy, is limited to small tumors and small doses of radioactive material to eradicate the cancer cells. I feel like I'm kind of speaking a bit too like lay in this topic. You know, I assume that anyone who reads this essay should know about what radiation therapy is and what it might include. So I think it's a bit too lay. But again, this whole entire section is completely irrelevant. You know, I shouldn't really be talking about treatment in an essay to do with the biology. This material is placed on a plaque made of lead or gold, which protects the surrounding tissue with radiation. During surgery, the plaque is sewn onto the eyeball where the tumor exists and is removed a few days later in another surgery. Even though brachytherapy is safer than EBRT and poses no risk of developing a second cancer, it can impair a person's vision by damaging the optic nerve retina. I kind of sound like a bit of a medical textbook here. I completely forgot and didn't realize that I'm writing this essay for a biomedical science degree, not a medical textbook. And if you definitely read that sentence there, it really sounds like I'm copying and pasting something from a textbook. And to be honest with you, I probably did. I have absolutely no references here. I didn't reference any sort of sentence here. I'm not referencing anything at all, let alone a scientific paper. So I clearly got that from like a website or like a book. And again, that's not what you want to do. When you're writing your essays, especially a scientific essay, you want to make sure that every single sentence that you write is properly referenced, and not just properly referenced. You only want to be referencing scientific papers which come straight from peer-reviewed journals, not websites. Or, I mean, fair enough, it probably was better here to not reference at all than reference websites. But when you write your own essays, make sure you're referencing properly in either Harvard or Vancouver referencing, and make sure you're only citing scientific papers, not websites or books at all, which is probably where I got that information from. Okay, so moving on. I'm not even gonna like bore you and read this next paragraph, but straight away what I recognize that's wrong with this is, although in the last paragraph I had no references at all, in this paragraph I only have one reference, you know, which is not really good. You know, when you're writing a good, strong scientific essay, every single sentence, well, almost every single sentence should be referenced with a proper scientific paper. Again, we move on to very short paragraphs, which is not very good. Again, I pressed enter and started a new section over here, which is just stupid. And finally, this whole entire section here, right, like literally from bottom to top, well, actually, yeah, literally from bottom to top here, that has not a single reference, which is crazy to, it's crazy to think. You know, again, make sure you're referencing the majority of your sentences when you're writing your own essay. And finally, we finish off the main body with, again, a nice one sentence paragraph. Oh my God, Kenji, like, jeez. Yeah, I mean, I can't really like stress it anymore, guys. Don't do one sentence paragraphs. Make sure your paragraphs are actually properly, you know, structured. Make sure you have a whole entire paragraph dedicated to one topic, you know, talking about one topic, and not just a single sentence before moving on to the next section. Okay, so now we move on to the next and probably the last section of this essay, which is the future of treatment for retinoblastoma. Again, I really don't entirely understand why I dedicated a whole entire section to the future of treatment when this essay title is not even about treatment. You know, it's about the biology. Maybe I should have wrote, you know, the future biology of retinoblastoma or something, but definitely not treatment. So, you know, I really shouldn't have, you know, dedicated a whole entire section of the essay to this. I'm just gonna quickly skim read over this, guys. So first section looks fine, although I did press enter again over here. So once the vaccine has been given, the dendritic cells process the antigens. After they've matured, the antigens are transported to the lymphoid organs where they are presented to the affected T cells. The CD8 cytotoxic T cells recognize the antigen on the membrane of the tumor cell, subsequently leading to the killing of the tumor cells by apoptosis or by the release of cytotoxic granules. Now, that's actually not a bad sentence. In terms of like scientifically, that's actually not a bad sentence. So I'm quite proud of for the first time ever of, you know, first year Kenji. So that's not too bad of a sentence. We then go on to talk a bit more about the treatment, and then finally the last paragraph of the main body says, a future in the use of nanotechnology to treat retinoblastoma and other cancers will prove to have a phenomenal effect on our world. Again, you know, I don't really know why I'm using these terms here, like phenomenal. You know, if you're writing an essay, forget all the elaborate like English. You know, when you're writing a scientific essay, you want to be very, very objective with your terms, you know, not kind of subjective. Like phenomenal, what does phenomenal actually mean scientifically? It doesn't really mean much. But yeah, I'm not going to read the last paragraph because I think I've been enough paid here. But let's go on to check out the conclusion, all right? So, in the past few decades, retinoblastoma has evolved from a disease known little about to one of the most approachable forms of cancer, with a survival rate at 95%. I don't even know what I meant by approachable. Like, you know, what type of cancer is approachable? That doesn't really make sense. Again, I'm not really knowing what I'm talking about. But let's move on to the last part of the essay, which is my references. And honestly, looking at these references, I do definitely want to like get into my bed and crawl into a small ball and cry, because This is quite mad. So as we can see, the very first reference we have over here is this is not even like, it's not even Harvard or Vancouver referencing. It's literally like Kenji referencing. Like I just decided to make something up. But yeah, the first reference here is the molecular biology of cancer. So clearly that's a very specific title that you guys can, you know, go and Google and you'll find it straight away. There's literally like no dates, journal article, even like link to this, you know, reference. I then have a website called kidcells.org. Like let's actually take a look at what that website is. Kidcells.org. So apparently the website doesn't even exist. Kidcells.org doesn't even exist. But let's Google that and see if anything comes up. This is an Instagram page. There's a page in what is like Eastern European or something. There's a few YouTube videos, but yeah, clearly that's not a real website and that shouldn't have been included there. Oh, we have the same reference again, referenced. So as we can see here, we have molecular biology of cancer, and we have molecular biology of cancer again in reference 3. Nice. We also have a website here, cancer.org. Let's actually have a look at what this website is. I'm actually really skeptical to see whether or not this is a real website and whether it actually it actually does work this time. Yeah, fair enough. Let's see what it is. Okay, so we have a website on what causes retinoblastoma, which is clearly like a website for the layperson who's not scientific or medical. So nice one, Kenji. I'm actually really curious to see if I even have like one scientific paper. Honestly speaking, if I included one scientific paper in this essay, I'll be so like surprised. The last one here actually does look like a link to a scientific paper. So let's check it out and see if it actually is. Please, Kenji, come on. You know, please, don't do this to me, man. Don't do this to me. Okay, all right. So it is kind of loading. Let's see. Right, guys, we did it. We did it. We actually included. Oh, it's not even a scientific paper. It's a book. Oh wow. Yeah, I actually thought for a second there that I included a real scientific paper, but clearly, second edition. This definitely looks like a book to me. Yep, it's under books on PubMed. It definitely is a book. So. Nice one again, Kenji. Okay, so as you guys can see in the references, I didn't even include one scientific paper. And honestly, looking back to my first year, I kind of know why. So when I first came to Biomed, I decided not to attend any single lecture on referencing because I thought that was, you know, kind of self-knowledge and general knowledge. I skipped every single lecture to do with how to reference and what you should be referencing. Which I definitely paid for. Like looking back now, I was so stupid. I definitely should have attended every single lecture that I had my first week, especially to do with referencing, because clearly I didn't even know how to reference. You know, when you're referencing, guys, when you make your own essays, make sure you're either referencing in maybe something like Vancouver or Harvard referencing. These are proper scientific referencing systems that everyone uses when they actually make scientific papers. So even on my scientific paper that I showed you guys, I used, I think it was Harvard referencing for that. And again, more information on how to actually reference on my Skillshare course, link down below if you want to check it out. But right guys, that is a quick read through of my first ever essay I wrote in university. I hope you guys can feel the pain and feel how much pain I was experiencing when reading this essay, but I'm not going to be too hard on myself. You know, I think whenever, you know, you go to university, whenever like anyone goes to university, they can't really be expected to be initially like straight away amazing at writing an essay unless they maybe have an uncle who's a professor in like, you know, retinoblastoma. So I am going to go a bit easy on myself, you know, having read through this, and it is very nice to know that I started somewhere. You know, I wasn't straight away very good at scientific writing, and to be at the stage now where I am at 25 years ago, so almost 7 years ago, really is humbling to know that, yeah, I'm past the stage essentially. But yeah, as I mentioned, if you guys want more information on how to actually write essays, I have 2 really good YouTube videos on how to write an essay, and also the entire Skillshare course that you can access below for free by clicking on the link. I highly recommend you check those videos out. Check out the Skillshare course as well. Let me know what you think. If this has been helpful to you in any sort of way, whether that's you know, educationally, in terms of entertainment, whatever that might be, please leave a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed as well with notifications on, and I'll see you guys on the next one.